Hey there, this is Craig Fear with Fearless Eating. Welcome to my kitchen today. Today I'm going to show you how to make an authentic New England clam chowder. Now what do I mean by authentic? A lot of people kind of interpret that word differently. For me it's just one thing and one thing only, something that very few recipes online do, but it is so important, and that is we have to use real, actual, fresh, whole clams. In particular, quahog clams, which are the quintessential clam of hard-shell clam of New England, which I have right here ready to go. These beautiful whole clams. I have about 7-8 pounds of them. And there's a few reasons why we want to use whole clams. Number one, obviously the clams meats themselves are delicious when we use them whole. And they are just so much tastier than canned clams. So you can't make an authentic New England clam chowder with canned clams. You just can't. And all these recipes online, it's canned clams here, canned clams there. Everything's canned clams. And I understand that canned clams are convenient, but you can't. It's not authentic. Canned clams are a different, typically are a different species of clam than quahog clams. Similar in flavor, but different. And they mince them up almost every time in these, canned clam products. And when you mince them, they just turn tough and rubbery. They leave them in this kind of juice that's just like overly clammy. And so when you have your own clams, your whole clams, it's not just the meats, which are going to be so much more delicious. We're also going to make our own clam broth. And that is really like to me, it's like that's the defining thing, the defining feature of an authentic New England clam chowder is you have to make your own clam broth. It is just a fantastic, really briny, clean, crisp flavor that just can't compare when you use canned clams. So let's get started. One last thing, if you like this video, don't forget to hit the down here, the subscribe button so you don't miss videos. I'm also going to put a printable written recipe in the links in the description below, so you can click over to my blog and check that out. And one last thing, this recipe will also be included in my soon-to-be released New England Soups from the Sea cookbook. I'm so excited about this. Of course, this recipe is going to be in there. It's also going to include 17 other chowder recipes, as well as 80 recipes total from around New England. Just soups. So I'm so excited for that, and I'll put a link to pre-order it. And of course, I'll update it when it's ready. So let's get started. Show you how to make an authentic New England clam chowder. All right, let's just start out with the ingredients that you'll need. These are kind of all the ingredients in a standard kind of authentic New England clam chowder. Not a lot. Let me just go through them real quick. And yes, I'm kind of talking up here. Hello there. But I just wanted to angle the camera so you can see a little clearly. Let's just start with the clams. These are our beautiful quahog clams, the quintessential clams, hard-shell clams of New England. They are in different growth stages. Sometimes you'll see small ones, cherry stones about that big. Too small for chowder. We want the largest ones, and that's going to be, these are cherry stones, and these are the largest ones of all, which are also called chowder clams. You can use either one, and just to give you a little close-up, I just love these clams. I find them really beautiful. They have different patterns and stripes and striations. And within these clams, why they're so great, not just their meats, but locked tight inside are the juices. They have very briny juices inside, just like oysters, that will release when we steam them and flavor our water to make our clam broth. Okay, so we got our clams. Now let's talk about what we got right here. Let's go into the bacon first. We're going to use about 4 strips of bacon. I want to show you close. See how thickly cut that is? That's what you kind of want in bacon. You want a nice kind of nice fatty strips in there. You want kind of thick cut bacon or fatty slab bacon, because it's the fat. We're going to render out the fat, which is going to cook the onions. So, and a good quality. Try to get the best quality bacon you can. This is a nice pastured bacon from the local farm here. Please avoid those very thin, meaty, kind of conventional bacons in supermarkets. They're not good quality, and they just burn. they easily burn and they don't release enough fat. So we really want the fat from the bacon to render out, and that's going to add some nice flavor and help cook our onions and our potatoes. Here's our yellow onions. Those are the best types to get. Definitely don't want red onions, but yellow onions are great. Yukon Gold potatoes, any medium starch potato is great. We're going to use about a pound of them, and we'll kind of chop and cube these up. The best quality you can get, I get these all from local farms here in Western Massachusetts. We'll be adding some thyme, fresh thyme. I much prefer fresh thyme to the other type, dried thyme leaves. It's a little too strongly flavored. This is a much cleaner flavor, a much more subtle flavor. A bay leaf and some chives for at the end as a garnish. You can also use parsley. And the last thing, very important, a good quality cream. And this is from a local farm here in Western Massachusetts, grass-fed, very good quality. Please, let me just kind of turn this up. Please get cream. You can use half and half. No whole milk. Please, not whole milk. Whole milk is not, especially from supermarkets, it's not flavorful enough. There's not enough fat in it. Our conventional whole milks are they're very poor quality. Traditionally, people, when they did use milk, and some people up like kind of in northern parts of New England would use whole milk, it was like raw, traditional, old school milk, which had a lot more fat content. So half and half is closer actually today to the old kind of rich raw milk than supermarket whole milk. So half and half, but I'm not afraid of the fat. Fat's good for you, especially from good quality sources. This is excellent. We're not using a lot of this. People are surprised sometimes when they learn to make authentic, real New England clam chowders that they're not overly, rich with cream. We're just going to use a cup of this, and we might add a little bit more. It's really the clam broth that is more important than the cream. The cream just kind of finishes it and rounds all the flavors together. Okay, so that's the ingredients. Finally, let's get started with steaming our clams. All right, step one here. We are ready to steam the clams. This will both cook the clam meats and also create our clam broth. So you are going to get about 3 cups of water boiling, which I got going. Try to use a wide mouth stock pot because the clams will kind of pile on top of each other. And so the wider it is, the easier it is to see when they open. So we're just going to simply be placing our clams here. I'm just going to start placing them into the broth, and I'll just kind of put them in, every single one in, and then I'm going to put the lid on, and they'll steam for about anywhere from 5. Some will open, some of these shells will open in 5 minutes, some are going to take 15 minutes. So we'll put them in, and we're going to open up the lid every 5 minutes or so, and we're going to start picking out the ones that are open and transferring them on the side. So that's pretty much step one. Get the water boiling, put the clams in, put the cover on top, and we'll check back in a few minutes. All right, it's been about 5 minutes. Let's see how we're doing in here. Check on the clams. So as you can see, some of them start opening before others. And what you want to do as soon as they start opening, just pick them out, transfer them to another bowl. I probably should have used a wider mouth stock. I actually have a wider mouth stock pot. I should have followed my own advice. They are a little tightly stacked on top of each other, but that's all right. And then you're going to just move them around a little bit with the tongs or another kind of kitchen utensil. And some of the bottom might have opened. I'll keep removing them. The ones that haven't opened, I'll put the lid back on. And again, I'll just keep checking every 5 minutes until they've all opened. And it'll usually take, at the most, about 15 minutes for them all to open. All right, so I'll check back in just about 5-10 more minutes. All right, so I removed all of the clams. They all opened from the water here. A few stubborn ones. Some of the bigger ones will take maybe up to 15 minutes to open. But you can see that kind of steely gray color. That's all the clam juice from the shells that infuse the water. We'll strain this out next. And I just wanted to show you these beautiful clams. I love these clams so much. Look at the nice purple coloration in there, and you can see just how big and meaty these these clam meats are. So I'm going to remove, these will detach very simply. We'll just kind of remove the clam meats, set them aside, and we'll chop them a little bit later. But I just wanted to show you just how, look at those. It's such a beautiful clam. You just can't get this in canned clams. They mince them up. They don't even include the juicy clam bellies in there with so much flavor in canned clams. So it's such a difference to making a chowder when you do this step. It's a little of an extra step. It doesn't really take that much time though. Extra 15 minutes is so worth it to get these clams and to get this beautiful broth, which has just so much flavor, such a fresh, kind of briny sea essence. Okay, so that's the clams and the clam broth. Let's move on to the next step. All right, before I start here making everything, put everything together, I just wanted to show you the clam broth real quick. I strained it out through a fine mesh strainer, and I got about a quart here, which is about exactly what we need. So when you steam about 7 pounds of quahog, 7-8 pounds, and 3 cups, you get about another cup, maybe a little bit more in addition to the 3 cups. So you get about 4 cups or a quart of broth. Now, this is how it should look. It's a kind of a cloudy, you can see, can't see my face through it, a cloudy kind of steely gray color. That's exactly how it should look. And it should taste really strong, but in a good way, like in a really like it tastes like clean and fresh, but it's briny. And that's exactly what a good clam broth should be. And so many of these, restaurants, if you go to restaurants, like especially chain restaurants, it's more like a creamy soup and it's overly thickened. There's oftentimes too many potatoes and little bits of clam floating around, and it doesn't have like the clam flavor. And same for when you use like canned clams, like all these blogs using these canned clams. Look at these beautiful clams. That's going to add some flavor too when we chop them up. Again, we're not going to mince them, and they're really fresh. They're not overly rubbery. So these two things are really essential to an authentic clam chowder. I know I keep saying that. I'm kind of beating a dead horse with the point here, but that's the essence of this video. This right here. This is just going to add some incredible flavor to your clam chowder. So that being said, let's finally get started here. Put it all together. Okay, now that we've got our clam broth, we're going to start putting the chowder together. This is going to happen pretty quickly. So the first thing we want to do is to cook the bacon over very low heat. It's very important that we use very low heat. The lowest setting on your stovetop. Too high and it will burn the bacon. It'll cook too quickly. It'll crisp up, and that kind of burnt flavor will get into the chowder. We're really just looking to get the fat out of the bacon, which we're going to use to cook the onions in. So we don't have to worry about crisping the bacon. And as it kind of starts to crisp a little bit, we'll remove it. And we can then crisp it up after the fact. I'm going to put this into a toaster oven, and I'm going to crisp up the bacon. We're going to use it later for bacon bits if you want. It's totally optional. So I'll remove the rest of this bacon, and then we'll put the onions in, which is the next step. Okay, next I've added the onions. I chopped them up kind of roughly into about a 1/2 inch dice. This is about 1 large yellow onion. You could do maybe 2 medium yellow onions. And they are sizzling away in the bacon fat. I'll cook them for about 5-6 minutes until they're translucent and softened a little bit. And one thing is, if you don't get a lot of bacon fat, if it doesn't render enough fat, you can add a little butter at this point. You'll know right away when you add the onions if they start to stick and burn a little bit. So there's the onions. Once they're ready, we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so the next 2 steps I've combined into one just for simplicity's sake. Really simple. So once the onions were cooked, I added the quart of clam broth along with the thyme and the bay leaf. Covered it, brought it to a boil. Once it boils, you add in the potatoes. I chopped the potatoes into kind of bite-sized cubes, 1/2 inch dice. The potatoes are in there, as you can see. They are simmering away. I will cover the pot now. Now make sure to lower the heat a little bit so it doesn't boil over to about maybe a medium-low heat. You might have to adjust it a little bit. But I'll cover the pot, let the potatoes cook, and now we'll take our reserved clam meats and chop them up. All right, moving on. All right, I just went ahead and chopped up the clams as the potatoes are simmering. And, my way of doing this is I leave like at least 4, sometimes I'll do more, whole. And there's just something so incredible about a clam chowder with a whole, scooping this up in your spoon with potatoes, and oh my God, it's just an epic experience. So you can leave all of them whole if you wanted, but typically then I'll take, a bunch more, I'll chop them into halves, into quarters, and I think this is a much better way to go about, this is a much more authentic way of adding clams to chowder. You're going to get more juicier, more flavorful chunks, so much better, so much more delicious than, little tiny little bits of rubbery minced clams. So you can chop it any way you want. You can chop them all a little bit more finely. I just caution you against, chopping them too fine. And really, I think leaving a few whole, bigger chunks is really a great way to go. It's going to just add some incredible flavors to your chowder. Okay, so the potatoes are cooked. Just take out a cube, just kind of put it on a cutting board and make sure, slice into it, taste it, make sure it's, nice and cooked through. We're all set. And just the few last steps here come together real quick. What I'm going to do now is add the cream in. I just want to make a few points about the cream. You're going to add no more than 2 cups, but you're going to start with a cup, and then you're going to taste it. So I got my cream 1 cup right here. I'm going to add it in, stir it in, and you're going to taste it right now. This could be perfect right here. That might be all you need. It's going to add a nice kind of creamy flavor, but without too much cream. Again, an authentic clam chowder, you want to have a greater ratio of clam broth to cream. Too many others, it's like too much cream to clam broth. It's that clam chowder. It's the clam flavor we're looking for, not like a potato. Some of these clam chowders are like potato soups. Not enough clam flavor. So stir it in. I'm going to taste it. I'm going to make a judgment call right here. Oh man, that clam flavor is just so phenomenal. I mean, to me, that's perfect. I'm good right there. If for whatever reason you wanted to add a little bit more, add about a half a cup, stir it in, taste. No more than 2 cups at the most. And we're almost done. We're just going to do one more little step. We'll add in the clams. We'll put some garnishes in. But that essentially really is kind of it right there. So delicious. So much beautiful clam flavor in that. All right, let me show you the one last thing that you might be wondering why I haven't mentioned yet. It's because I like to do it a little bit later. Okay, so last step before ready to eat this puppy, and that is thickening. Now, most people add the thickening. They make a roux, butter, flour, roux, and they'll add it with the vegetables in the beginning. I prefer to do it at the end for a few reasons. Now, number one, you might not even want any thickening, which is fine. Like right now, this is fantastic. People in Maine, northern parts of New England prefer brothier chowders, and that is perfectly fine. If you want, a little bit more thickness, typically the New England clam chowders are known for being kind of creamy and a little bit thicker. I prefer, instead of a roux, to make a slurry, which is similar but a little different. The slurry is just taking a little bit of potato starch right here. This is Bob's Red Mill potato starch. You mix it equal parts, the starch and the water, and you add it in the end. And to me, I think you can control the thickness a little better. Sometimes if you add a roux, if you add just a little bit too much, it can over thicken it. And when you over thicken clam chowder, it dulls the clam flavor. And this is my big criticism. A lot of restaurant chowders, they're way too thick. Canned clam chowders, absolutely, don't even get me started on them. They're way too thick. We don't want to over thicken it. We want a little bit of thickness. So with a slurry, I think you can control that a little bit better. Potato starch has a nice neutral flavor, so it won't interfere with the flavor of the chowder. For for this much chowder, about a 1/4 cup potato starch and a 1/4 cup water. I've already kind of prepared it. Mix it together. If it sits a little bit, the potato starch will clump up at the bottom. But just mix it together. You add it in as it's simmering a little bit. I'm going to add it in, and then I'm going to stir it for a few minutes until it thickens, and then I'll see. Do I need to add any more? Probably not, because I don't want to over thicken it. But usually, to me, that's about good. A few minutes, you'll see it'll thicken up a bit and that's it. So that's a really easy way to thicken it. There's many different there's other ways to thicken it, but that's the way I like to do it. I just save it for the end. And then once this is all set, and I can see it thickening right now, you add in your clam meats right here, stir them in, and that's it. And then you'll kind of garnish it with whatever you want, bacon bits, chives. I'll show you how I do it in just a minute here. So I'll just thicken this up, and I'll be right back with one more clip for you to show you the final chowder. Okay, I just wanted to show you the final bowl here, the final outcome. I came outside. The light's a little bit better out here in my backyard. A little too much glare in the kitchen there. So you can see. Just look at these beautiful chunks of clams in there. You'll never get that, in other types of chowders unless you make it at home. And look at this. And so as you can see, I put some bacon bits on there. When I crisped up the bacon, I chopped it up myself. I put some chives in there, a little fresh ground pepper. I gave this a taste. It's so phenomenal. But I just wanted to show you this. Look at that. That's one of the whole clams. I mean, could you imagine? Look at that. Is that beautiful? I mean, oh my God, that is just like, I can't wait to bite into that. It's just a nice texture, not too thick. The clam broth flavor just really kind of predominates. So just wonderfully briny, so fresh tasting, so much wonderful clam flavor as an authentic New England clam chowder should be. So, all right, I'm so hungry. I'm going to start eating this thing right now. All right, one more. I'm going to check in one more video. Okay, so that about does it. Thanks for stopping by. I cannot wait to eat. I just got to try one more little taste. Oh my God, it's just so fantastic when you use real cohogs and you make the broth yourself. There's just nothing like it. There's a reason why New England clam chowder is so famous, even beyond New England. Traditionally, this is how it was made, and I really encourage you to seek out real clams, make the broth, and you'll be so happy you did. If you've never had it done it yourself, you'll see like there's such a difference between when you do this and when you don't. When you use canned clams and more packaged ingredients. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, click subscribe down below to see more videos. I post somewhat regularly. And you can also click the link again to see, take you to my blog where you can find the printable recipe. And you can also get this recipe in my soon-to-be published cookbook, New England Soups from the Sea. It will include this recipe, of course, as well as 79 other. Yes, there are more soups than chowder and bisque, I promise you. 79 other New England soups. I can't wait for it to come out. You can pre-order it in the link below. Don't forget to comment if you have anything to share. I would love to hear from you. So again, thanks so much for stopping by and checking out my video.